So there is no expression that will get that is equals to that value that stored inside this pages variable. So because there is no case statement, or there is no expression inside any case statement that will match with the value from this pages variable, that's why the compiler will look into this case block, and it's going to look for a default statement. So if it finds there is a default keyword, then it's going to enter the default statement, and it's going to print out the echo, or it's going to echo out this message on the browser. Then it's going to break away from the switch statement. So that's how the switch case default statement works. So if you need more case statements, you can actually add more, but you should always try to optimize your code. So there are drawbacks in using switch case statements, like you can't actually use multiple conditions, or you can't actually use any sort of conditioning inside here, except that it's going to check with the variable along with the cases expressions. But in if, else if, and else statements, you can actually check for multiple conditions. So what I mean by multiple conditions is that you can actually add something like and pages, or maybe like it's not there, something like this. Home. So now I have got two conditions in here. So this is known as the pipe operator, or this is actually the OR operator in PHP. So what this is going to do is that when the compiler looks into your code, it's going to look into the condition. So it's going to see whether the value stored inside this pages variable is equals to the string value. If it is equal, then it's going to skip this second condition. But if this is false, because we now have something like contact us, so this value won't be equals to this home page, then it's going to look into the second. It's going to look into this second conditioning part. If this conditioning part is false, then it's going to ignore this entire clause. So this actually means OR, which means if this is either this is true or this is true. So any one of this condition needs to be true for the compiler to look inside this clause. If none of these conditions render to be true, then the compiler will entirely ignore this part. But there is another form of conditioning, like the AND. So this AND works differently, or perhaps oppositely, than the OR part. Both of this condition needs to be true. If either of them is false, then the compiler will actually ignore this clause. But if both this one and along with the right hand condition, if both of this condition renders to be true, then and only then the if condition will actually look into this clause. So you're actually including two conditions in one if statement, but you can't actually do, or you can't actually include any sort of or AND operators, any sort of those logical operators inside your switch case statement. Your switch case statement only provides some sort of expression that needs to be matched with the variable that you provided. So that's how it works. Now let me actually elaborate this entire part. Let me actually briefly explain how this AND works. So this AND, you might be a little confused. So let me change this part. So I've got two variables, like the last name and the first name. So let's uncomment this. Now let's use something like first name and the last name. So inside this first name, let me include my name, my first name, and let me include my last name. So let's save this. So we are going to echo out the full name. Now let's actually understand this code. So this is rather simple, but it needs a little bit of practice to understand both of these conditions. Now literally, if we read this entire if clause, it's going to read something like, if the first name, if the value inside this variable first name is equals to this string or equals to Nafis, and the value inside the last name is equals to this string called Ahmed, if both of them are true, if the first name variable contains the name Nafis and the last name contains the name Ahmed, then and only then the compiler will actually print out the full name. Otherwise, suppose if the compiler comes into your code, if the compiler reaches this line 24 and it sees that it has got something like this, which is actually false because the first name variable contains a different name, Nafis. It doesn't contain Ahmed. So because this entire condition, the first condition is false, then it's going to actually skip this part. But if we have included something like this OR operator, then it's going, when it comes to this line 24, it's going to see that the first condition is false. Then it's going to skip that first condition, then it's going to look into the second condition. Now the second condition is true, so your compiler will then look or enter this clause. But when we add that AND operator, when we add that AND operator, suppose it sees that the first condition is true, but the last condition is not true. The last condition has something like a different name. So the last name is Ahmed in here, but we are checking with a string that is different. So this is going to be false. This entire condition is false. So your compiler will actually ignore this entire clause of if statement, and you are not going to see this echo message. So that's how this AND the OR operator works. There is another one called the NOT operator. That actually requires the concept of Boolean mathematics, or the simple concept of true and false that's included inside the Boolean data types. So we'll be talking about that in the next video.